And we go on in the studio to Anna Metsäranta, Head of Sustainable AI, Solita, Finland. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. You're going to talk about state of sustainable AI in 2022, but some questions before that. As Solita's Head of Sustainable AI, what does sustainable AI actually mean to you, or in your case?
Well, sustainable is a really big word, and I find that I do have to start by defining it. So if we go back to thinking of AI as systems that create impact, economic, social, or environmental impact, then AI sustainability deals with attempting to ensure that we create and use AI systems to maximize benefit to businesses, people, society, and environment, whilst minimizing harm. And the other aspect of sustainability is the temporal aspect. So we think about something that can be sustained over a long period of time. So we want AI investments to deliver value over a long period of time whilst minimizing harm. So quite a lot packed into one word.
That made it much more concrete. Thank you very much. Hey, and why is this topic interesting to you and Solita, however you pronounce it in English? Yes. Solita in Finnish, yes.
Yes. Well, Solita's mission is to create impact that lasts. And we are a company that builds custom AI solutions for our customers. So those two things combined, we must care about sustainability of AI. And we want to be at the forefront of understanding what does that actually mean and how is that actually done practically in organizations. So not just that we create sustainable AI solutions, but we also help our customers make sure that their AI solutions are sustainable. And for me personally, my background is in economics and computer science. So for me, combining the business and technology has always been really natural. But when I came to Solita 3.5 years ago, I started to work with people from human sciences backgrounds. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great combination, actually. It stimulates the brain as well. It's
really does.
A good combo.
And it seemed to me like that's the missing piece. That's where we need to go. We need to understand people, to understand how the value is created, but also to understand the risks and the harms that could manifest themselves.
But it's good with this combination of technology and people, and we of course sometimes perhaps tend to overhype technology a bit. Of course, it's getting more important all the time, and we will have more of it. But anyway, as one tech guru said, that he still sees, even in the future, tech being more or less like 10% and people being 90%. So it's very much a people business-driven thing in the future as well, no matter how much new technology and good technology we get.
Yeah,
even as game changers.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I think often I'm really averse to the hype because I think it's counterproductive. It actually stops us from seeing where the value could really realistically be created. So very good.
Hey, good. Before I let you go, so what would you say, given our audience and we're talking about, so your subject, what you're going to talk about, so who will it be particularly relevant for? Who would be your main core audience here?
Well, the audience should be large for this topic because this topic touches every organization that uses AI or intends on using AI. So if your organization already deploys or is thinking about it, then this is an area to start thinking about how does it manifest itself in your organization.
So, State of Sustainable AI in 2022. Anna Metsäranta, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello and thanks for tuning in. My name is Anna Metsäranta. I'm from Solita. I'm Solita's Head of Sustainable AI. So today I'm going to talk to you about the research that we did this spring on the state of sustainable AI in 2022. We didn't want to assume that we know how organizations think about this topic or how they talk about it or what they're doing or not doing around this. So we went out and we asked. We spoke with 26 organizations, 33 people, and we tried to pay attention to the high-risk industries, public and private, those industries where AI solutions really can cause significant harm. So we wanted to know how they are thinking about this topic at the moment. They were mostly Finnish organizations, some international and some truly global. We also chose organizations that have some experience of using AI, and we attempted to speak with individuals from those organizations that are closest to the topic of AI sustainability. So I'm going to share with you today the sort of what I think are the top key findings from our qualitative study. So just to point out, this was a qualitative study, so we cannot sort of quantitatively generalize the findings, but it was more about finding themes and interesting observations from the field. So these 5 things I'm going to walk you through briefly today. Firstly, the terms and definitions are not at all established. Soon I'll tell you why that's a problem. Secondly, organizational ownership is not resolved. There are no kind of standard models for this yet. Thirdly, there's loads of ethical AI principles. A lot of organizations have that, but the practices, how do we actually exercise those principles, are still quite rare. Then we talked about competitive advantage, the business benefit of having a sustainable AI brand. So I'll share some insights on that. And then lastly, the regulatory impact. Starting with the terms and definitions, there's no consensus on how to talk about sustainable AI. There's also no consensus on how to talk about AI in general, and this is a really relevant point. So our interviewees had very different ideas of what AI is, ranging from sort of human-like, almost sentient kind of machine intelligence to the other end of the spectrum, just analytics and everything in between. So we don't really necessarily talk about the same thing when we talk about AI. The sustainable term is, as you previously heard, that's a term that we use at Solita. It's a really packed and big term. We also heard people use terms responsible, ethical, trustworthy, even robust or lawful. So lots of different terms, no standard definitions. And interestingly, although sustainability often refers to environmental aspects, when we talk about AI, it's more the social impact, the data aspect of things. And although a lot of our, I could say all of our interviewees were well aware of the gender bias or the racial bias of AI, hardly any organizations had stopped to think about what does this actually mean for us in our context. So very few organizations had chosen deliberately some terms to use and given them definitions. This is a problem because it stops people moving, it stops people doing things. They don't know if this is important to us. If it is, then why is it important to us? What should we do about it? So I really think this is a core topic. This is kind of where the work has to start, with the terms and definitions. Here's a quote related to this. This one word you said, bias, I wonder how it would pop up here. It could be a business bias more than anything related to gender or such. Makes one think, maybe we haven't thought about this enough. This was a very sort of common finding. Second topic, organizational ownership. Has it been placed at all? And in many cases, it hasn't. And there are various reasons for this. Maybe we just genuinely don't know who could be in charge of this topic. We don't know who has the necessary expertise, or maybe there's no perceived outside push. Maybe there isn't that sort of burning platform that makes one act and makes one do something about it. Or then there was this thought that we don't even use AI. So we're back to the terminology and definitions. But the organizations that had placed responsibility, at least in some way, or at least there was an individual who felt like, well, maybe it's me, maybe I should be doing something about this. So we saw these individual torchbearers, passionate individuals who wanted to advance the topic, but often they didn't have the mandate or the resources. So they're very limited in their ability to act. Then we saw some decentralized models where separate teams are themselves responsible for how they exercise AI development. Some organizations had ethical boards where you could go for sparring and advice. They're quite rare, but we're starting to see those. And then the most mature organizations that had gone the furthest had clear cross-organizational models of support. So not just one person trying to do this whole complex thing alone, but different kinds of support structures to facilitate that cross-organizational, horizontal and vertical interdisciplinary collaboration. Very unscientific chart here. We attempted to plot the organizations we interviewed on two axes. The y-axis describes the maturity of AI use. On the bottom, we have organizations that have only done proof of concepts, so they haven't brought anything into a production environment. Then in the sort of mid-range, we have production pilots, and at the top, we have production-strong AI solutions in use. On the x-axis, we plotted the maturity of AI sustainability, starting from we're not talking about it at all. The next cluster is organizations that kind of bundled it together with other sustainability topics. Then the next one over is where we have AI-specific ethical guidelines and principles. And then there were 4 organizations from public and private sectors that could be said to have sustainable AI by design, if you like. So processes, transparent mechanisms, really good cross-organizational awareness of what it means to create ethical or trustworthy or sustainable AI solutions. Here's a quote related to this. When it comes to AI, I don't think that all the pieces are in place yet. That would require that everyone in the organization knows when to stop. And I don't think we're quite there because these things are far from easy. So this alludes to the fact that this is a cultural change. It's not a process or a tool or an assigned responsibility, but it is a wider organizational change to help people be aware and think about this and really know when to stop and what to do if they're feeling like they have questions. Then about the value, about potential competitive advantage, why is it good value to think about AI sustainability from the business perspective as well? A lot of organizations talked about a desire to lead in matters of sustainability in general, and this often comes from the field of environmental sustainability, could be social sustainability as well. There isn't yet an immediate link from that desire to lead in sustainability to AI sustainability, because again, it is it requires different subject matter expertise to talk about and deal with the sustainability of AI. Then there was wide awareness that there are external forces that are coming to play. There's policy change, there's technological change. Consumers are starting to be more aware of algorithmic harm, and they want answers. They want to understand how algorithms are being used to make decisions about them. So a lot of organizations said that they feel like they can't afford not to think about this topic. And then we had interesting conversations about value-driven talent. There's a lot of fighting going on about the AI talent in the market. It's in high demand. Talent in AI, talent in sustainable AI is hard to recruit and to attain. So a lot of organizations felt like having a strong brand to do with AI sustainability actually attracts talent, because people want to make sure that their skills are being used for good. And this definitely applies to public and private, so something to keep in mind. And then lastly, increasing public trust in AI. And this was more related to the fact that if there's no trust in AI, then there might be very limited opportunities to utilize AI. So we cannot harness the benefits of this technology if there is no trust. And there was a very good quote. Oh, sorry, I don't have the quote in my slides anymore, but there was a company that talked about how in their industry they had to approach this topic first by increasing trust in AI itself, because they found that there's a bit of like mistrust and suspicion, and there's almost the company was waiting for someone else to make a really bad mistake before they could kind of draw the boundaries of what they can or cannot do with AI. So increasing trust, and it often happens through creating transparency. That's a great way to start, opening up about what kind of AI solutions you have in your organization, how do they relate to people or the environment. Then the regulatory aspect, I should note that we only talked about the AI Act proposal. There are, of course, many others. There's definitely regulation coming, which we need to be prepared for. Interestingly, most of the organizations we spoke with were either not aware of the AI Act proposal at all or had not started talking about it. Some had started to look into it, and most of the companies that were aware of it and were discussing it were also then preparing guidelines and taking other steps to prepare for the regulatory future. A few were very actively working on it, had even submitted comments on the AI Act proposal. And there's a strong correlation here to industries that are already highly regulated or otherwise high risk. So there were no delusions there. They were fully aware that this is coming, they need to be prepared. And I think really interestingly, although kind of everyone agreed that this is a burden and this is something that needs to be taken seriously, needs to be worked at, and it will require some work, nobody complained about regulation. As a conclusion from our study, I'd say that there's no one right way to do sustainable AI. There's no kind of like golden script, do this and then you're fine. It's a complex topic. But what we found is that the leading organizations in this field have certain things in common. Firstly, they have a recognized motivation. They have stated it out loud. Why is this important to us? Why are we investing in this? They had a shared vision. Where are we going with this? What do we need to achieve? And having this motivation and vision also, of course, requires having chosen and defined the terminology that they use. And also the collaboration models across the organization were well established in these leaders in the field. I would say this has to not necessarily start from, but certainly this has to be anchored at the senior leadership level. If the C-level doesn't see value in AI sustainability, if they don't see all that relates to it and how actually we're creating a sustainable business by paying attention to this topic, then there's very little that can happen elsewhere in the organization. So I would urge the senior leaders to think about this topic and how it relates to your organizations. So that was the study, and then just a few things, my thoughts, Solita's thoughts. This we already covered in the introduction, so I'm not going to spend any more time on what sustainable AI means for us. But then this claim, sustainable AI is sensible business. There's a lot here. I don't have time to go deep into this topic right now, but I do think about this a lot and would be super happy to have a conversation if this is an area of interest. But how I think about it is we have these two areas that we are actively working towards. We have the responsible value creation, where we are talking about, for example, improved risk management practices, ability to prove impact and make sure that the impact we create is positive or that we can mitigate it if it isn't positive. And through all of this, increasing trust in AI. On the other hand, we have operational excellence, where we increase our organization's ability to create sustainable AI. For example, it could be streamlined lifecycle management, it could be clear accountabilities and improved explainability and auditability. What these lead to is competitive advantage. Through, for example, profitable investments. When we put money into AI initiatives, we will get a better return on investment, also potentially better access to external funding. Customer loyalty has been shown to increase through these measures, employee satisfaction similarly, and then this topic about access to scarce talent. I think that is a really interesting area. So these are the reasons why this should be interesting to all of you. And if you want to know more, if you're now thinking about, well, okay, what can I do? How can I move forward with this? Then I would invite you to come to our deep dive this afternoon. 1:10 Central European Time, 2:10 Finnish time. Solita is hosting a deep dive on how to strengthen your sustainable AI capabilities. We will give you a say. You can choose from the topics that we've listed which one you want to know most about, and then we will tailor the contents to the audience's wishes. So I hope to see you there. That's all from me today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to discuss these topics. Thank you.